That the board is in open session at 6:40. Okay. Information sharing session, superintendent's report.
Well, a lot of things have happened since we last met. We have transitioned to K-5 in person since last Monday, which was the 19th. Students are very happy to be back in school all together with their friends. It's still about that 70% in person, 30% distance. Parents really still were changing their minds, probably because of the recent uptick. There's still that difficulty where parents are going back and forth, even though they now have to wait for a week. So the parent who commented at the very beginning, you know, how could you not know? How could you not plan for it? The difficulty is we don't know, and parents are really trying to make these tough decisions. I know it's not easy, but it's based on the events that are occurring. And I'll talk a little bit more about the positivity rate in just a second, but we're also trying to plan classes based on what we know from the parents at the moment. So at this point, we do have the distance teachers with distance students, in-person students with in-person teachers. So we think that that is working much better. Today, Wednesday, we added in grade 6 through 12, we added the Wednesday, and students did well. High school did grab and go for their lunches, and that worked out. So far, the bus company didn't call me and say everybody's eating their lunches on the buses. So hopefully everybody behaved, or maybe she's waiting till tomorrow morning. And grades 6 through 8 ate in the cafeteria before they left. So I think that was very good. As I mentioned, the positivity rate, I'm sure you've seen on the news, is up to 4.1. Hospitalizations in Connecticut are up to 292. However, there's only 2 in Torrington. Yeah, we met with our emergency preparedness group this morning, and they shared that piece. And they did say, Governor Lamont said this as well, positivity rate is going to go up. There's more cases being tested, more people being tested, etc. And just wanting to remind folks, even CDC across the nation, in our state as well, the spread is much, there isn't the spread in the schools. The spread isn't happening in the school. It's happening through community events or sporting events, or just any time when gatherings of people, you know, social gatherings, what have you. And those are the calls that we're getting. There has not been any transmission within the schools. And I know I'm going to say that over and over again. I'm going to say that in the next letter that I send out to parents again. But I just want to allay parents' fears. I think that's really important. In terms of the staffing, when we have the COVID cases, because we would have to get a sub for any staff member who is impacted, we do try to get subs. Kim can certainly speak to that. I know that she's working really hard. But as when we were chatting this morning, Kim reminded me that all those people who were subbing now have jobs, because everybody in the state is looking for teachers. And many folks who were in that hybrid and then had to move forward really had to hire a lot more staff. We were very fortunate in that with the K-5, we did not have to do that. We have flexibility with our interventionists, and we're still able to offer our tier 3 interventions. So things have worked out very well. So I think we've transitioned very well at the K-5, and I'm happy about that. For secondary parents, we have gotten many emails of just maybe because it's the trend, it's the time, it's the resurgence of cases. We will add the hybrid as an option. So the option will be hybrid, in-person and distance, with a very clear understanding, and I will say this repeatedly in my email to folks, that ultimately we can only offer 2 options. We cannot offer 3 options. It's just not humanly possible to staff that. So far, we've gotten about 60% of our parents have answered. And right now, I feel like it's not as conclusive as it was with the elementary, where we really had that 70 to almost 75% at one point to 30%, even though people were changing their mind at the end. Survey results are 62 to 38. So that's a lot of range there. So I do want to send this out again, and we have time, because if we were making any change at the 6 through 8, we would do it at the trimester, and that would be at the beginning of December. So we have time to gather more data, and I'd rather be more informed and then see what this uptick is, see if it is impacting Torrington, or if we stay in this kind of neutral zone. On the one hand, people are saying, oh, we might have a resurgence in February. And then on the other hand, someone who was reporting out this morning said we may have some ups and downs, but it may just be, pretty level. So that's what we're hoping for. But
Oh, sure. I didn't catch what you said about the offering the 3, the hybrid. Like, are you saying that?
Sure. So when we do the survey again, what we are going to offer in terms of if you had the opportunity to bring your child back, knowing that we would not necessarily be able to do 6 feet of distance within a classroom, just based on the sheer square footage of our rooms, would you want to have your child remain in a hybrid, go full in person 4.5 days a week, or would you still keep your child, or now are you deciding to have your child in distance learning 100%?
Okay, so you're gonna
That's
have
all.
the next
That will
the
be
next
for
survey because of
secondary.
what you're getting. Okay.
Right, and for secondary only. I think things are working out very well at the elementary, and we really didn't get a lot of, this kind of opened the floodgates. We got a lot of emails and feedback from parents, and actually from high school students. I got emails as well. Very articulate, very well written. I was pleased to see that they felt like they had a voice, which was great.
Question for you.
Another, sure.
I mean, in planning, even if it was 55 to 45, why wouldn't we? Because I don't understand what the costs are. I don't understand what
Sure.
the complications would be. But even if it got down to 50-50, it would free up space in the school to allow us to social distance. And then those parents who want to keep their kids at home would keep them at home. How would that impact us positively or not? If the students want to come in,
Sure.
let them come in, I'm saying, theoretically.
Right.
But does that issue, and for the parents' sake too, because most have to work, does that create a bigger burden if we went to a lower in-class option?
So what I'm really concerned about are my distance kids. So if that number is going to increase, I'm worried, because what we're
Oh, I don't want it to
finding
increase.
is that our distance kids are more disconnected, and especially the older they get,
Right.
the more disconnected they are.
But what would you
And
do about
so-
it? How do you fix
So
it?
that's why I'm saying, I think if we have a higher percentage who really want to stay in that hybrid, then that's something that I'm going to seriously consider. The high school is going to be, and I said this all along, very, very difficult to do in person, simply
Yeah.
because we haven't even been able to cohort as it is. So I'm following the health metrics, I'm looking at that, but
So you're saying
know,
hybrid,
even-
if we kept the hybrid, if they choose hybrid, then they would be in 2 days. You're saying
then
you're
they
gonna
would
get,
just
so you'll get the kids in for 2 days.
yeah, it would
You're
be
worried
two,
about that.
2.5, 2.5.
Oh, okay. I don't think that was clear. I thought
So-
you were saying that if we don't get the plurality, then we may go to distance learning or,
No, I
so you're
really
worried about the
want to-
kids.
Right.
Those parents say, I don't want them in there, not coming in 2 days, 2.5 days a week.
Right, so I think really the option is a hybrid or in person, and we have to offer the distance learning. So it's either one or the other of those.
Mhm.
Yeah, so sorry
Okay.
for any confusion.
I've spoken to some of these people and several of the parents who have looked at the survey said that if they had to, if we decided to go full in and their kids are currently in hybrid now, they would then pull them, which is.
But that's, yeah, okay,
Right.
that wasn't clear.
Right, yeah, no, that's why it's good to ask questions as I'm going through this. Yeah, and it's just a lot of different issues. So the other thing that we didn't anticipate, and obviously if you heard some of these news stories, these nightmares about what's happened with busing, some districts aren't even able to offer busing anymore because they've lost their bus drivers. So we have not, in our district, we've lost 14 bus drivers since September. So then we had to transition to 2 cohorts per bus. So, or 2 bus options for students. Originally we said 1, but then the bus company was having to combine anyway because they had a shortage of bus drivers. So we're still cohorting, but now it's two groups coming together. One company reported that they have 26 bus contracts throughout Connecticut, and they've lost 113 drivers since September.
Why are they losing drivers?
Because people don't want to.
They don't want to
They
be with
don't
the
want
kid
that
on the bus. Okay.
responsibility. They're exposed, all, you know,
just quitting.
they're just quitting. Yep, they're getting other jobs. They're saying, I don't want to be a bus driver. I don't want to risk it.
And then you have
or
to
I'm not
account for
feeling well.
quarantine.
Exactly,
So
right.
if they,
Okay.
there's some quarantine and that puts bus drivers out because it's not
Right.
just us they're working with.
Right,
Who,
so.
me or Kathy?
Yeah,
No.
that's, oh my God, that's a hard job. Because
Actually
what
thought
other
about it.
job do you do where you have the kids behind you
Twice.
and you're looking this way? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense, but how else would you do it, right? So anyway, the majority of the buses now that we have for K-5, we don't have more than 30 students. And even at that, that's the rarity. There's 2 buses in that situation. Most are at 20, 25 at the max. We still have buses at, 15. It just depends on what the route is. And those are the buses that you can consolidate when you don't have a bus driver. So it's working out and we're piecing it together, which is really good.
Does that affect their budget?
No, because you have to run all of the, remember busing is you run all of the buses all of the time. You can't.
In
Even if
the
they're
contract, there is a
Good, so-
stipulation. If you don't run all the buses, but we haven't used that stipulation yet because one day they run all of them, and the next day they may combine 2 buses because the driver's out sick or whatever.
So then also remember, you might have, because different buses do different runs. And so you may do all of your TMS runs, but you won't do all of your K-5 runs. Or you may do all of your high school. So you're paying for that you have that you have the buses, paying for the day, if you will.
Okay, so even though we're consolidating by, call it 14, just for lack of better,
Right,
better numbers.
right,
We don't get to see the benefit of that because it's how it shakes out in terms of. the
Correct.
day.
and it's like Fiona said too, sometimes it's just because of quarantine, so they have to quarantine because of whatever happened there, and so. Yeah, it's moving parts, and that's what's been challenging about this whole time. There's so many moving parts.
And the other problem is we have to have enough for all the kids. So if people start sending their kids
Right.
on the bus that are driving them now, so we have to kind of hold those buses. So we can't let them give those buses to other people because if parents get more comfortable, they might start wanting to send, and then we're gonna have to reevaluate that.
And a bus driver doesn't equal a bus.
Correct.
Did we see an uptick with people choosing the bus option with K-5 going back full time?
We didn't see an uptick. What we saw was a consolidation. So it pretty much doubled. And a lot of our buses were like at the 10, low teens. So then we were okay, but then some of them had a little bit more. So that gives you that range that I spoke about. So I'm gonna switch now to just transfers in and out and enrollment numbers, if that's okay,
Everybody else set on busing?
Okay, and because that was a question that came up at the last meeting, and I just wanted to be able to share that real fast.
Just a one-pager or-
This one's a 1-pager, and then I'm gonna give you just the total enrollment piece. As well, just so that you can see overall how many students have come and gone. This one is really,
So you can have it for the record.
yep. There's extra copies. Too. So the first one that you see in the black and the red, just someone had, I don't know, people have been asking just in terms of how many in-state, how many have transferred out within the state, how many homeschool students we had out of state, New York, non-specific, that's just any other states
I got that one
transferred
too, but
in,
we have it.
and the different grade levels. So at the very bottom, you see the total, so transferred in 158 and then transferred out 90. So just giving you the idea of the transfers. So in terms of this, you can see that at the K-5 level, we really did have a homeschooling issue. Students, some parents just decided to keep their kids home. Yeah, obviously not as much at the upper levels. And then some students moved out, some students moved in. People were asking about the New York. The transfer in for elementary was 24. Transfer in from New York, 24 students. And that was a change. Last year, we saw a lot of students transferring in at the secondary. This year, we're seeing it at K-5. I don't, you know. So we're just trying to track that, monitor that in terms of how that's working. Yeah, sure.
When you say transfer, you're not talking about DCF or,
No.
that's just families moving in.
Mhm.
More moving than.
Yeah,
transfer.
Laura is going to speak about the other numbers. Yeah. Yep. Okay, and then when we take the October 1 numbers, and this is, they weren't pulled at the exact same time. This was, I think, September, and this one was our October numbers. So I just wanted you to see where the differences are. Just overall, this doesn't include pre-K, it doesn't include post-secondary, and it just shows just an overall of where the numbers have changed. Once again, secondaries pretty much stayed the same. And then really that biggest hit was in kindergarten. Because you're really seeing, yeah.
Which makes people waiting.
Right.
Which makes total sense, exactly, right. Maybe not sending, maybe sending to homeschool. There's just a lot of lot of factors there, which led us to 157 less students this year. That's all. Just to give an overview, because I think it's important to look at these trends each year, and this is around the time when we usually do that.
You think the kindergarten's temporary?
Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah. I mean, I just think that's really hard. Some people just didn't want to send their kids with masks. Just a variety of different reasons.
And it wasn't mandatory.
Right.
Correct. Yes. And
Not
I
a
think
great
that's really
experience.
important to remember.
You don't send your child to study.
So that's. So anything else on that? And just switching, this is more of just an FYI, and then I'm going to end on 2 positive. Oh, sorry, grab this. Yeah, there we go. I shared this at School Improvement, so I apologize to School Improvement people. Every year I just share the focus areas. Some of this will look very familiar to you from last year or new to you if you're new to us. There we go. So we are looking at attendance again, but we are looking at the chronically disconnected. Really, and this is the Alliance as well as the state is looking at those numbers. And they're really worried still about hotspots or connectivity or technology or those students who check in, but they check out. And Allie was wonderful and got the information out to people on blurring the background, and it's now available through Google and Chrome on the Chromebooks, right? So we are going to move toward that so that hopefully by seeing our students, connecting with our students, that will make it a lot easier. Yeah.
Will that be required?
Well, you can require it, but I can tell you that if
No,
they
I'm saying,
wanted to
are we
file
gonna- are you as a
a
board?
lawsuit, they certainly could and say it's a violation of, if they feel that's that strongly, that's an adamant position that they could take and say, no,
Will
I
you leave
don't
it to
want to
the
do
tea-
that.
So we leave it to
But
the
we will,
teachers?
no,
Or
we
not?
will, I'm gonna write that in my email also and say, yes. You know, teachers need to see you.
So you mean disconnected, you mean actually disconnected.
Yes, and so that's what I'm saying. So the state is saying those 2 factors, right? So really disconnected in a variety of different ways. You want me to get you another pair? There you go. And I know it has sentimental value, so it's okay. But anyway, so right. Whereas before we were just looking at this is pretty big font. Okay, so before we were just looking at those students who were disengaged rather than disconnected. Okay, that's a better way to put it. Funnily enough, or interesting, ironically enough, the Alliance tracker that where we're sharing that information is still just tabulating attendance as we used to. So if they are showing up when we take that attendance piece, so we will have different numbers for each of those groups. Engaging and differentiated instruction is still going to be a focus. We have made great gains, which Laura will share with you if you weren't at the other meeting in terms of our SPED numbers. So we really, the last goal in terms of targeting student needs, we're really talking about SPED interventions in tier 1, really making sure that our core classrooms are very strong in terms of targeted instruction, in terms of what all students need, offering the challenges to those students who are ready, as well as the support for those students who really need extra supports. And as Dr. Buchanan said, many thanks to the board for the staff in terms of all the behavioral initiatives that we've been able to employ this year, that are the registered behavior technicians and the behaviorist who supports all of them, and really making sure that we have that in a robust fashion at each one of our schools. So that is incredibly helpful. And then our social emotional support strategies, which we are employing at every grade level, K through 12. So that's our focus areas. We will be setting measurable goals at each area. I'm already doing that with the administrators, and I know that they're sharing that with their teachers and creating goals for this year, which is exciting. So just some good news to end on in my report. Luke Pepper and Barb Beebe from the high school did an absolutely outstanding job with their THS highlights for our incoming 8th graders. They did this beautiful video, and it really focuses in on our students and a lot of student interviews, and they are just so genuine and so sincere. We'll post that up on the high school so that you can see it on the high school website. But they just did a beautiful job speaking highly about the high school staff, the community, the family feel, and just so apparent that they were speaking from the heart. And then a parent, I just want to say, at the other level, a parent wrote a very heartfelt letter to both Kelly and Peter, acknowledging in particular their dedication, the kindergarten teachers' dedication to their lessons, Google Classroom, slideshows, learning experiences, even for our youngest learners at the K level. So that was really beautiful. And I know it made their day, and they were going to share that with their kindergarten teachers. So everybody is trying, as Dr. Buchanan said at the very beginning, everybody's working so hard and trying to make this work and bring everything together. So, and then on a positive note, and I'm going to turn it over to Sue Ferguson.
Thank you. So just to piggyback on what Sue just said, and she outlined her focus areas. So if you look at number 2, engaging differentiated instruction is kind of where I live, and Maureen Rosado lives, and now Andrew Deacon, and Ellie Harold much of the time too, right? So thank you again. I will reiterate the thanks to the board for supporting the position, the additional position for Director of Academic Support for the elementary. We now feel like we actually have a team, a department. There's 3 of us who are heading up this work. And so we decided to make it official and give ourselves a title, a name. So we've dubbed ourselves the Office of Teaching and Learning. It's really official. Yeah.
That wasn't even like.
That's not what you were thinking? Yeah.
We'll call it
Better than that.
OTO.
Yeah.
OTO. Right. That's right. So really, I think there's 4 big areas, like big buckets that we kind of wrap ourselves around. That's where we live. And those are professional development, curriculum and instruction, assessment, and technology. So I just want to kind of give you some updates. Last year, we were really cooking along with respect to PD, professional learning. I think many of you who were at the table would recall, I would get all excited and hand you out those multi-page documents of, multi-year plans for professional growth. I just want to revisit that and let you know that that did not die when COVID started. So we're still doing it. We've had to shift the way we think. We've had to get creative, but the partners that we were linking arms with are still willing to work with us. So there was a little bit of a lag, but we're up and running again, and we're continuing to do that good work. So that was focused on multi-tiered systems of support, universal design for learning. There was a social emotional learning component, Swiss, which is a platform that we can gather our data that helps us to track discipline. We did a lot of work around instructional rounds at the middle and high school. And then there's ongoing work with our special ed and our general ed staff around improved practices for student outcomes in IEP development and PPT practices. So that was last year, continuing this year. So now this year, we have had to pivot to a lot of technology training to support teaching in a virtual environment. That was just something that we just didn't have any experience with, right? Honestly, not alone in that, right? Everybody in the country, right, has had to. Because of the situation with the virus, there's been more of a need for social emotional support, certainly for children and adults as well. So we have secured professional learning in that, professional development in that, engaging online instruction and learning to look at the standards and prioritize the standards, because let's face it, if we have our students only 50% of the time in a real meaningful way in front of us, we have to really make sure that we're hitting the stuff that really matters all the time. We've had to learn a lot of new assessment platforms. We have adopted Freckle. STAR we had, but we have that again. So for those of you who don't know, STAR is an assessment platform. Screencastify, Lexia, Pear Deck, Discover Education, Common Lit. Those are just a few that I just put down for you so that you understand that we really have invested to give our teachers the very best resources and a variety of resources so that they can do the very best. And we've provided professional learning opportunities in this area. We have a day coming up on election day for PD, as you know, and a big focus of that day will be lesson development and refinement in a blended landscape. What does that look like? We're working very hard, continuing to work hard to ensure common learning experiences for all of our kids. So we're doing, I think we talked about this being one of the silver linings of this whole crazy time, that we're doing more collaboration than we ever have done before. We were doing a lot of work the past couple of years in curriculum development in all core content areas. Pretty much the same goes for this as for the PD. It hasn't stopped, it's just slowed down a bit. And part of the reason for the slowdown is something that Sue just said. You know, it's really hard to secure substitutes. And really the right way to do this is to have teachers very intimately involved. So we're not really able to provide the kind of full day release time for our teachers that we've been able to do in the past. So we're doing it in more abbreviated, truncated chunks. But we're looking at those Wednesday afternoons as an opportunity to do some of this work. And we'll just have to do it in a rotating basis. Our assessment window, we were encouraged. The state recommended that
Strongly encouraged.
Strongly encouraged.
Like, you better do it.
Yeah, not to start throwing assessments at our kids as soon as they arrived on the scene, right at re-entry back to school after all of this time away. In a typical year, we would administer our baseline assessments probably mid-September. We would start trying to get that information as soon as possible. The recommendation from the state was give the kids time to settle in, give everybody a chance to just settle in. This is kind of secondarily important right now. So we took that advice. We are in the process of administering the STAR assessment and the DIBELS assessment. But we're not quite done with that yet, so I can't report that data to you until next time. I put the Smarter Balance there. I think we talked about this maybe at the school improvement meeting. As of this moment, we're being told that we will administer the ESPA, but that's kind of a moving target. We just don't know. So more to come on that. We did administer the PSAT and the SAT on October 14th. SAT makeup day was yesterday, and we have our second round of PSATs tomorrow. We have also been told by the state that because of our current circumstances, our participation rate is not going to be considered in any of our accountability data, right? We have adopted Performance Matters, which is a product of Power School. It is a data management and analytics tool. It will be up and running by late January. We're in the process of building the system now. It's going to allow us to take all of our student data, academic achievement data, discipline data, attendance data, everything, put it all in one place and really disaggregate it and drill it down just about any way you could imagine. So we're excited about that. And then I'm going to ask Allie to jump in with me on technology because she can do a much better job explaining all of this than I can. But we've got lots of good news to share.
We definitely do.
Yeah.
So we are now a one-to-one district, which is really amazing. We've been working with different agencies of the state to also connect our students at home. Some families have not had access to the internet, and I think at this point everybody is covered. I don't think we've had any more requests lately. We have created, with the addition of our technicians, we have created a system and a parent help desk where we're able to very quickly turn around the device and get it back into the student's hand if there has been any type of issue with it. And then we will diagnose the broken device in-house and then refurbish it in-house and then put it back into the lineup. We saw that having everybody with a device streaming 24/7, well, essentially all day long, really created a bit of an internet issue for us. So there was a time last year when we thought that ESPA took a lot of bandwidth. ESPA is like nothing. So we learned that, so we took advantage of the CEN offering and we added our internet backbone to 4 gigabits for free.
Wow.
And I'm very grateful for CEN to make that happen. And moving forward, it'll also be part of E-rate. So it really does not add any significant expense moving forward to keep that promise. The new help desk for staff and students, we changed and we made it easier. We also now, and we'll be publishing that on the homepage, we'll have a student help desk that is in English and in Spanish. The Spanish one will come to us in English, so it automatically translates, which is really neat. And it just makes things, much faster for staff and students. So for the staff, we have improved the system to the point where we hit a major milestone today. For the first time, as I'm aware of, the high school finished the day with 0 open tickets.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
Thank you. I'm extremely proud of my team, and then everybody is just really working very hard.
It's great.
It's been phenomenal. So thank you.
It's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so wonderful to actually have people to do the work.
Sure, yeah.
Well,
I
and
bet.
Allie here to lead
Yeah.
too. And
Oh,
she does a great job
Thank
yeah.
with her team.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just one more quick thing. If you could just pull up the website, I just want to show you one of the fruits of our labor, the office of, the OTL. Maureen Mazzato, who is our secondary director of academic support, actually was the brains behind this. So this is a website that is available to our staff. It's in draft form. It's not complete. Don't click on that one because that page is empty, except for Andrew, you can picture. But if you click on the allocate the multi-tier system of support, so you keep hearing me say that, and you've heard that from Laura and from Maureen and Andrew. That's been a huge thrust of our professional learning throughout the past couple of years. And, you know, MTSS really works very closely hand in hand with the student services, right? Because it's kind of a prevention. It's a way to look at students and their needs and to get in there right away as soon as concerns are noticed. And it helps us to really know what to do, how consistently to do it, how to monitor for it. So Alan, you just click on the top. That one, yeah. I can just show you, this is a document that has been written. Let's scroll down one more page. There was a author there. There was a team of about 25 people involved in this. And really, it's still in draft form, but we've worked closely with SERF, State Education Resource Center too. These are all the folks who were involved. So this is an actual how-to manual. It's a handbook for teachers and staff to help guide them through the process when they're noticing concerns about students, and hopefully prevent students from entering that special education pipeline unnecessarily, knowing that there are other routes to take. So I'd be happy to share the whole document when it's ready. I don't want to take that time now, but I just wanted you to know that there definitely is an overlap of all of the professional growth that's happening, and you know, we're chugging along. So
Great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sue, and your team.
Any questions for you? All right, special education update.
Okay, well, hi, everybody. So I shared a little bit of about our numbers last meeting, was a special meeting, but I wanted to be able to put it back into the format that you've been seeing all along. I made some copies that were there on the table, so hopefully, okay, great. So, I just wanted to start out by saying it's really kind of interesting to be able to follow the SUs, because we really have been working together, I think, all of us in central office, to kind of unite what we're doing to make this whole thing come together. And it's really interesting to me, like looking at what my plan is and moving forward with special ed, how it fits into the district and what everything else we're doing. So the front page is the chart that I've shown since I came on board. And just like Sue said, the numbers from September to October are always a little bit different. And I wanted to be able to point that out because going forward, I'm always going to use the first of the month as our recording date. So it's just the same consistently. October 1st was the important date that the State Department pulled all of the data for the APR, which is the annual performance report. And we call that our special ed report card, because that's what I have to live by and make sure that we are always adhering to and trying to make sure that we are meeting all of the demands of the different areas that the state's looking at. And, when we came on board, prior to July of 2019, we were not doing where we needed to be, let's just say that. So we've really put a lot of things into play. At the bottom of the first page there, you can see I spoke about our prevalence rate dropping. And what the prevalence rate is this is on the APR. One of the things they look at is the percentage of students that require special education in district K through 12 out of your whole population. So again, October 1st of 2019, when we were first coming on board, we were at 21.66%. the highest in our DERG, and only the 4th highest in the entire state. And we are now at 15.23%, which is actually below the state average of 16%. So, you know, much more appropriate. A lot of different little pieces went into making that happen, okay? On top of that overall drop, on the next page, I begin to talk about the outplacements. And this was another huge area. When we came on board, it was 18.42%, which was very high. The state average was 13.5, and we are now down to 13.74. So above the state average, but just by a tiny bit. I did want to give a shout out to our out of district people because they work really, really hard. We're always talking about our numbers in district, but Tom and Renee, Tom's our out of district supervisor, and Renee is our special ed teacher who does a lot of our PPTs for us. And we have really worked this past year to establish practices to always ensure that we are trying to reduce least restrictive environment, even with our outplaced kids. So one of the things that we look to do, and Tom did a really nice job of documenting this, if a student was outplaced and let's say had a one-to-one para 100% of the time, again, we want to make our kids more independent as they can be. So the improvements you don't see and the numbers that I show all the time are things like reducing para support from 100% to 50% to 25% of their day. So that's a big change that we've made since we came on board. You know, it's not just an automatic, a student is outplaced and they get a one-on-one. It's what do they need, the least level of support to be the most productive and independent as they can be. The other thing that we are making sure we're doing now is every annual, we are making sure with our outplaced kids that we are questioning whether they continue to need that outplacement. You know, what can we meet their needs within district in a least restrictive environment so they're with their non-disabled peers. So I really want to thank Tom and Renee for all their work. They attend a lot of very difficult meetings and they've done an outstanding job with that. This focus on the least restrictive environment is not only going on with our outplacements, but also within. We're always looking to see, you know, we talked about our continuum and what we need to do to, you know, have our kids come back to be not in self-contained classes, but in maybe resource in the general classroom. And so our data shows that 82% of PPT decisions that were within our control over the last school year resulted in lesser restrictive environment settings for our children. So that went right along with us not looking to outplace, looking to bring back and make them as independent as possible. The referral process has just begun. What I've decided to do this year, just so that you're able to see, and I'm only on page 2, Allie. Right there, thanks. So if you look at the total number of SPED referrals so far, K through 12, I'm going to break it down now to between parent and school, because I also am interested in looking at, you know, I'm a little bit of a data geek. I'm interested in looking at, is there a difference between home referrals and the school referrals as far as the percentages that are qualifying? As Sue F was saying, we really have been looking to lower that total referral through the MTSS process. And that's going to be a continued, even a greater focus of our department this year to really lend a hand. I'll talk about that in a minute on the back page. So on here, I will every month talk about how many referrals we've gotten, just like I did last year, how many we've gone to eval on. And remember, I mentioned once before, we don't want to have a lot of referrals because we're hoping we can meet their needs in special ed. But if we go to testing, we're hoping that the children are qualifying so that truly there was a disability and there was a reason to test. Our numbers have continued to go up on that accuracy. So I'm pleased about that. And so you'll see right at the bottom there, in October of 19, only 50% of the students that we were testing were deemed to be eligible. That took a lot of time, a lot of the children's pulling out of the classroom and everything. And now, as of June, we were at 78.5% were deemed to be eligible. And as of October 1st, it was actually 79%. So I'm going to continue to try to work on offering that support regarding MTSS so that we are not having to move to special ed unless a child truly needs it. The next page, again, I provided this every month last year, just looks at each grade level and, that movement, the kids moving in. Last year, we looked very closely at the move in, move out. So far, we had 20 move in, 15 move out. Some were from out of state. I don't have that breakdown right now. I did say at the beginning that the big drop, so the September to October drop, it was 60 less, and that was due to a lot of things. So that was due to either students that moved, students that had graduated, students that went to a tech school or one of the magnet schools. But in addition to that, in special ed, we had 8 children go to homeschooling. So I think Nikki had asked about that, how much of an impact in our reduction was due to the COVID. And we did have 8 parents that chose to provide homeschooling to their children. So that was part of our reduction there. On the last page, I just wanted to give you an idea of where my focus was going to go this year. We're going to continue to work on what we've always been working on since we came. But I want to now up the ante a little bit. The third bold statement down, compliance with state and federal regulations and timelines, that is the continued focus. That's what a lot of this was on, meeting the APR as far as those percentages, getting our numbers down. That's great. We've gotten them down, but we need to continue to focus on this and continue to improve in this area. But now that we've begun to do that, and I feel like we have things in a little bit of a better place, there are some other areas I want to focus on. And the biggest one, I think, is the documented efficiency of instruction and providing quality instruction. So on November 3rd, we're going to be working with our staff on making sure that when we are writing our goals and objectives on IEPs, that they are very measurable. I want the progress reports that go home with the children to be very specific on this goal was mastered or it was not mastered, accompanied by the data to tell us whether it was or wasn't, and that data is going to help us decide what moves to make next. So that's really going to be a push this year. It's going to be a focus of our PD time. We are going to also use that progress monitoring to help us develop our goals and objectives for the next school year, like when we have our annual review meeting. So we'll just be much better prepared for annual reviews to really be able to look at the growth that students have made or the work that we need to do. Another big thing I think we need to continue to work on, we've been trying to do as much PD as we can to continue to improve our practices in virtual instruction. And like both Stu said, getting our kids engaged. And that's a challenge with the virtual. So we're going to continue to explore the best practices and the best ways to get all of our kids on board. We are working now to call PPTs, to bring parents in to really discuss those children that are not engaging with the instruction at this point. So we want to continue to look at that. We are going to, our time with non-disabled peers has improved, but it is still a concerning area. So I still want to be able to really focus on that this year as far as working with the Sues and Maureen and Andrew and the MTSS people on what can we do as a special ed department to help with that differentiation piece and to help really look at co-teaching and meeting the needs of all students using differentiated instruction and behavioral supports in the general ed classroom. Having the added behavioral supports that we were able to bring on this year has been amazing. The principals have commented on that. and really have them not just work individually with children, but to go into classrooms to be able to model for teachers how best to support behavioral needs of all students in the classroom. So we're going to look at that. And then the last thing is just primarily with you guys and with parents, and continuing to be transparent and share what I'm doing with you as we continue to move forward, and also to share with parents. I started the newsletter last year. Our first one's going to be coming out in about a week, and I hope to get 4 out this year. And we also, through the help of Sarah Coolidge, we have been updating our website a little bit. So hopefully, if you've noticed that, if you've been able to go on. And I think that's pretty much everything.
Go ahead, Gary. Go ahead.
I got a couple of questions, Laura.
Sure, Gary.
On the reduction in outplacement, although we're almost at the state, or just above the state average.
Yep.
Where do you think, based on your experience, you want to end up? Or what do you think is realistic? Because I don't know what the state average means, although that's all we have to use.
Where I'd like to end up is we don't have anybody outplaced.
Well, right.
But, you know, I think that when the state sets their targets and their averages, you know, it's based on looking at a lot of data and what is acceptable. Obviously, our goal is always the least restrictive. So if we can meet their needs here, great. But if not, then we are going to have to take that step with some kids. So I'm very, very happy if we can stay in line with where the state is. I'd be thrilled with that. You know, I don't think a lot of districts make that kind of improvement in a year. So I'm happy with that. And I think our next challenge is going to be keeping that. You know, a big part of special ed, as you know, is who comes in, who comes out. You know, we just had 2 go out that both had IEPs, but we had 3 come in. So, you know, in one family. So it's just, it's a continual up and down, and it's all about least restrictive. We'll continue to work on it.
So just one other thing. A couple of years ago, we talked about not just the ratio, the high number of students that were in special ed, but also how the kids weren't getting out
Right.
in a reasonable amount of time. How will that be reflected? I'm assuming you're working on that as well, but how will you address that or show that?
Well,
Or is it improving?
yeah, I did show that last year, Gare. In
No,
the chart on
I'm
page
sure you did.
3. I'm sorry.
I'm sure you did. I don't remember, that's all.
So on page 3, there on that chart with all the things across the top,
Yeah.
we did have number less, and let's see, in the green, number less, and it is those are the children that have exited from special ed. So I wanted that number differentiated from the number of kids who moved out, because I wanted you to be able to see how many kids have tested out of special ed last year. And unfortunately, I don't have that exact number.
That's okay. I just wanted to know that it was there. Did we lose you?
I have a question that Sue can probably answer, Sue Ferguson. Around the Performance Matters application that you're integrating to Power School, is that something that the SPED program will benefit from as well, as far as getting out progress reports and tracking data and things? Okay. So that'll be easy to report out on as well.
Yeah.
Is that in place yet?
Well, we just, like, last week.
Okay.
met with the folks who are helping us build the system and all of that.
Okay.
It's gonna take them, they said probably till mid-January to get us up and running, with
Mhm.
the training that we need and that kind of thing.
Okay.
So we'll be training all of our teachers how to use it in February, at the
Okay.
PD day in February.
Now, will that be in addition to what they have to put in Power School? Or will just by putting,
Everything.
Everything
Power School is
in-
covered because it's a Power School product, so it's
Okay,
not
so
an-
that-
it's not another
easier.
layer. of
okay,
support.
good. Okay.
I'm sorry, guys, I got booted.
All right.
Yeah, so I was just saying, Gary, that the number, I kept a running total last year. I had it posted on my wall because we had like a running total. I can't recall right now.
Oh,
what
that's
the
okay, yeah.
final- But
I
I
was
will
just-
do that every month for you.
And do you have I'm sorry, to further that, and I'll stop talking. I know I read somewhere on the state website that there's a time frame that's written into their IEPs or their PPTs. Will you measure that? Will you measure yourself against what was planned, or will you just, is it, and again, this is just how it works. Will you shoot for getting them out within 6 months, a year? Who determines that, and when will you determine that?
I won't. I wish I could do that, but you know, it's truly, each kid is so individual, and figuring out the best way. One of the things I really want to work on this year too, in that the first area I spoke about with our curriculum and differentiated instruction, is really looking at improving the different services, the different curriculum materials we have available in special ed, because I want us to have a whole variety of different things that we are trained in and able to pull from. So, you know, I mean, I was a special ed teacher for 20 years. This kid is not learning how to read. I'm not going to keep using that approach. I'm going to switch it up. So as we do that, now the kid begins to learn, and then it's a matter of how quickly do they take off from there. Obviously, the goal is for kids to exit at some point. And I think we made a lot of movement, but I wouldn't be able to put a number on that, unfortunately.
That's okay. I didn't know if there was a measurement that you went by.
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, I meant you personally. I didn't know how.
No,
Okay.
no. I mean, obviously, we don't want to, we want to do it in the right time for a kid too. You know, it's all about least restrictive, but it's also about providing what they need. So it's not just, you know, okay, pull it out. They don't need it anymore. Let's make sure they can be successful first.
Right. Okay.
Okay, any other questions? No, thank you very much, Laura.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, monthly financials. Do you want to take it, Armand or Ed?
Just, first, as you said, with Laura special ed and helping us to be in the black this year, so we thank Laura again. And I said it was probably the first time in 40 years that I've seen it. So, as you know, we're in the black in tuition, about 650,000, and in transportation, about 1,000,001. The reason, again, for special ed, last year at the end, we had 116 kids outplaced. And this year, as of last month, it's 85. So that's a big reduction. Also, again, in transportation, All-Star gave us that credit of 264,000. And because we reduced 181 days to 177, another credit of 71,830.
No, it's like a summary.
Right now, we're moving in the right direction, and we'll see what next month brings.
The flip side of that is with the COVID, there's COVID expenses. So, we're, kind of pulling that number down a little bit. It would be higher, but COVID expenses.
Everything that is
Right, so we're way into some on that. So I think we have.
Nick, go ahead,
Sorry.
Nikki.
So if this trend continues, if people do that, what then?
There's lots of people. Again, last year we gave back $1 million because that's what the agreement was with the mayor and Board of Finance, that they would help us with the COVID expenses. So at the end, depends upon where we stand, we would give you projects that we would want to do and give you a total of that.
That's what I was hoping.
Says a rumor right there.
Thank you.
Just, we gave over $1 million this year, but we've given money back every year over the last couple of years.
Yes, we have.
And not because about doing it with them, or like why couldn't we use those for other capital projects? Can't hold
we
it.
can't hold money.
We've done, like, not last year, the year before, went to the board and we bought computers for that money.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
You can't
But
hold
we
it, but you
don't
could
have-
spend it.
We don't have a 2% fund that can, the state statute says that school systems can put 2% of their surplus in a separate fund, and you can use it for expenses down the road.
That's what we would like to do.
Doesn't want to do that.
And I think it has something to do with the city side of the financial stuff, their status also.
Yeah, we've never been just to spend it down because it's not fair and it's not what we agreed to. So we typically will go back to them if we have a surplus because quite frankly, it's the right thing to do. I would like to set up that 2% account because I think it would help us both with capital items and in years that our special ed budget is not as favorable. I don't want to say a cushion, but to have some wiggle room.
It's a cushion. It is.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't suggest like spending just to spend it, but more of like, we had to reduce our capital budget by $1 million, right? Based on the total number we were given. If we do end up having an overage, are we allowed to move it from general fund to capital?
Not
or to
without,
use it
we'd have to go to the city for approval.
for approval?
We
on
can't move between operating and capital without
Okay.
approval.
I think it'd be easier if they gave us the 2, if we were
Yeah.
given the 2% rule. We're allowed to use that, and then we would simply have it in the bank.
Or the city gets their fund
Well,
that? Well, and this you probably have to spend by the end of June.
And you wouldn't,
right?
again, I don't think you could spend.
Well, the 2% you could carry
You can
over,
carry over.
so it'd give us more flexibility.
There's a
then-
recent change in state law.
Right.
Yeah,
It used to be
Yeah.
1%.
It increased too.
so the most ideal would be having that 2% fund, because then we don't have to rush into
Yeah.
something. And we can say, okay, we got whatever, 750,000, what are we gonna do? You know, capital's a great idea, because I mean, we're definitely lacking. in that.
The biggest problem is we're a constant moving target, right? So we could have a surplus and then 2 kids could move in with $500,000 in IEP services and all of a sudden we don't have a surplus. So it's not like you can plan it out because you can't plan what's going to happen for the rest of the year. So it's tough. It's a moving target right till June 30th.
Kind of question related to that. So if we have a substantial surplus for sped, and there are perhaps students who enter the district with significantly expensive needs, would we still get excess costs for them from the state, or do we only get excess costs when we've already spent?
The excess cost is this year.
Right.
So it goes on. So we're gonna fill out the form December 1st of what the kids are here now. And we fill out this form March 1st, whether any kids come in or any kids have left. And that's how they figure out the excess cost.
Right, I just mean like the expectation isn't that the district spends its budgeted line items first before the state
No.
pays excess cost. They just
Excess
pay.
cost, we don't get it. Goes to the city.
Right.
Well, right.
Goes to the city. Many years, we used to take it as a net. So we used to net budget for excess cost. They don't do it now. Whatever reason.
We've had that discussion.
Remember last year, we asked them, we put in that surplus money for excess costs because we knew that they're gonna lose money this year on excess costs because of the kids aren't in there all the time, and that's where we save the money. So they didn't want us to use any of our money to help them. So they said to us, they're gonna take care of the loss on excess costs. See what happens.
Thank you.
Just as another note, so I think that we can all agree that investing in the special education department has shown significant returns. So if we did have a surplus in the special education budget, it would seem to me that it would make sense for us to look and consider other programmatic changes that we could do that would have long-term savings to our budget, not just temporary savings. So I think if that trend continues, that we should look at, through the special education department administration, at what other programs could we possibly consider that you may need initial investment for, But I think, I don't want to say the proof is in the pudding, but the proof is in the pudding, that once we've started to invest in this department, the kids are getting the services they need. Staff is being supported, and we're seeing exactly what we want to see, which is kids that don't require special education services not be identified just for lack of any other options.
I didn't think that was I thought we did what we did, we gave more money, but that was just step one. I think that's when we went to the city council or board of finance, they gave us some of what we needed, but not all of it. I thought we were going to be, or Laura would present the need for, we need more of this, and this is how we can, make that money work for us. Hopefully this year we'll have that as well, because I didn't think that was a one and done.
Yeah.
No
Hopefully it's
worries.
not.
Budget season is starting next month.
Month.
Right, Ed? Hey, right around the corner, coming to you.
Wait.
Seems like we just finished.
What just set that up is that, we see a trend where our placements are going down. I'm just making up, let's see, it's 500,000 this year. That 500,000 is going to help us next year with a program that Laura will come up with, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you hopefully, when if we achieve those excesses, like we talked about in the beginning, reallocate the resources to improve every other aspect of education.
Invest
Yep,
in
and we'll be
ourselves.
looking at all of it. Exactly.
Better future for all the-
Whatever. We'll let you know.
All right, COVID-19 expenses.
Yeah, we haven't changed anything. We are going back to the state to move a couple of things. We want to move some of the monitors back to the sanitizers so we can get reimbursed for the sanitizers. We haven't done that yet because we haven't. So the state, remember, and Susan, you have a better idea. When we first put the budget in, we thought every bus would have a monitor, which is not true. It's not happening. So we want to make sure where the money is, we can get the money back.
Any questions on
And again,
COVID?
I don't, we already received 9,000 masks from the state. 4,500 last week and 4,500 the week, 2 weeks before. So those are going to be sent out to the schools. So if that keeps up and we don't use all the masks on the buses, we may not remember 99,000 was the first quarter.
Right.
So if you don't have to use the rest of that, that would really help too. More on that.
Any questions on COVID-19 expenses? All right, Alliance Construction Grant.
If you remember, we filed the first with the state. They called us and they said the state of Connecticut School Construction Department has informed Torrington will not fund the middle school main entry vestibule project. The state will not fund any security project or code violation project. They wanted to go through the long process of the state, and in the wisdom, it takes a year to get everything done. You have to do that. So they will not fund those. They wanted to go to the state. So therefore, we decided to add the following projects to the list. The first one, Vogel Wetmore, remove, replace the stair treads, including landings on all stairs. That's the original threads that are on the 4 staircases. There are 3 staircases that go up to the top of the floor, top of the building. There's one that only goes up to the 2nd floor. So we want to replace all of the stair treads and the landings. The landings have VAC tile now. We want to put the rubberized treads on that. The second one is the middle school, refinish the gym and auxiliary gym floors. If you have gone up there, nothing's been done in 26 years. They just coated it. So now you have 26 years of coating. So what we do is refinish it. We take all that coating off, right to the bare, put 2 coats on, put the new lines on, put another coat, 2 coats on to do that. So We want to do that in both gyms. We also want to do that in the Vogel Wetmore, refinish the gym floor. Same idea. Hasn't been done. If you've seen it, it's dark brown. And then Vogel Wetmore, we want to furnish and install a new software for the automated building systems control. Last year, the board, in their wisdom, gave us to do the other schools. We did the high school, we did Forbes, we did Southwest, we did Torrington, and we did the middle school. The reason why we did those, they were in between $10,000 and $15,000. This is a $30,000 job, so we can get it out of the Alliance grant. Again, all funds are available for the fiscal year 2020. However, all funds are, let's put the dates down because every grant has a different date. So all must be spent by August 31st. Final reports and invoices are due by September 15th or upon completion of the projects. If they're open.
We need 2021 here. Oh, right, 20, sorry. Like,
I had 2020.
I know. That's what I was
I
thinking.
know.
I'm like, wait.
And Sue,
Go ahead, Sue.
Okay, and I have a question. Is Vogel Wetmore 30,000 because it's the two schools?
yes.
And what software, what automated building system controls are we talking about?
Right, they are called, it's the only one we have in the schools. And it's called the Allerton.
Is that what John was talking about last week?
Yes.
So we did it everywhere except
Except
Vogel
Vogel
Wetmore.
Correct.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gary.
So to follow up on what Nikki brought up before, for the security project, knowing that we may have some excess funds, will there be enough time to use some of that money to perform, to do
Correct,
that
but it's
work?
gonna take you,
Or we could rush. it.
yeah, but it just takes time. You can put the money as, we can, just trying to think. If we can do that.
Oh, I mean, you could set a timeline. that
Yes,
gets it
yeah,
done.
right.
We don't have
Yeah.
30 days.
You just have to go through the process of a building committee, which I'm sure.
All I'm saying, I think it's that,
Yeah.
one thing should be a priority, because that's the one thing that sticks out. And if the state's not paying for it, I think we would be remiss in not doing it somehow ourselves, rather than giving it back to the city, hoping to give it back to us 5 years from now.
If you want, we can start the process
To me,
and get the plans together. And let's see what the bids are.
I think we should, but I
For
don't
the
know. I
vestibule?
don't know if this is
Is
the
that what we're
forum.
talking about?
I don't know if this is the forum, but you tell me.
My only concern is it's, I don't want to say it's like the stock market, but the stock market was doing great last week. It's not doing so good this week. Our budget, I would just be concerned with spending money that we haven't, I would rather see us budget for it next year than take a chance on this year's budget, hoping that we don't end up having.
But you're talking about giving money back. I'm saying rather than,
Well, no, I'm thinking, but we could go back to the city if it looks like towards the end of the year, we're gonna have extra money and tell them the need for the security vestibule.
couldn't we at least now look at, get the process started? I mean, it's a terrible thing for us to take a chance with.
Yeah, I
knowing
mean, we
that
could
we've
look
already
at what the cost
publicized
is.
We've already publicly
That's what I'm
stated
saying.
the
I can get,
problem.
Yeah,
we can start looking at it, what it's gonna take, because we know what it's gonna take. We just have to now get real close budget, figures, make sure.
go ahead, Ed.
So I know that some of the projects in the original thing we talked about last week had come off of capital. We could do them quickly. Was the vestibule on the capital plan initially?
Yes,
So if it's already in the capital plan,
but it wasn't budgeted in the capital.
Yeah.
right? Well, what I'm saying is if it was a project in the capital plan, would it be worth the board as we go through the capital process to maybe think about reprioritizing the projects to prioritize something like this? I'm just kind of throwing that out there to the
That
group.
still goes to the following year then, doesn't it? I'm trying to.
Yes.
avoid
it
that.
goes to-
It would go to the following year, but to Fiona's point, would sort of, guarantee that the project gets done as opposed to shuffling money around and hoping that we don't run into some expenses. I think John has his hand up.
John.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, John, go ahead.
So we did, when Ed and I found out that the project wasn't going to be eligible for funds for the Alliance grant, because I had talked to Donna several times about the next round of security grants. They have been approved. The next round of security grant has been approved. The only thing that they're waiting for from the state and federal level is to have a dollar amount put to that grant. Once that dollar amount gets put to the grant, then that grant will be issued out so that we can apply for that grant, just like we've done for in the past. At that time, I would look to put in, I have a huge number of security things which are in the capital plan. They're basically in there as for a placeholder, but I would look to put all of those things on that security grant for that next round to grab as much money as we possibly can.
Yeah, because then it wouldn't have to come out
Yeah.
of our capital fund.
Yeah, I think you're misunderstanding. You go first.
No, I was just saying, I like Gary's idea. I mean, I'm disappointed that this is not gonna be funded. I think this is the most important thing of the things that we had put in this alliance package. And so I would like to see us try to find another way to do it. What's the possibility, what's the likelihood of our grant request being fully funded? John, do you know if we do like
Well-
file all that stuff and then try to tag this on?
They've historically in the past, they've never fully funded a complete grant request on a security grant. I don't know the history. I guess I could track that with Donna to find out what the history was on what we submitted for security grants in the past and what they funded for them. But my goal would be to sling as much stuff into that grant and put a very high dollar amount request in, hoping that they may pick that as a percentage and say, oh, we're going to give you 60% of what you requested. And then we can allocate that funding towards what needs to be funded in the grant as we set the priority. They've never really set the priority for the grant, but they have set, I've never seen anybody fully fund the security grants.
I guess what I was under the impression that if there's money left over, we give it back. And all I'm saying is, and because we can't spend it, but something like this, we could easily get designed in 2 weeks if we really wanted to.
Or we can go to the city and tell them,
Wouldn't that take longer?
we're gonna have this amount, and this is what we would like to do with that, which we've done
Oh,
before.
so we have to
yeah,
do-
and
that's what
other
we have to do?
capital.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because he had said, well, it was this-
Right.
Remember,
go ahead, Nikki.
I thought they just gave us one number. Like, I know. we
Not
did-
always, it
I know we
depends
submitted
year to
grant-
year.
Okay, this past year though, they didn't give us,
No, but once we finalize our budget,
yeah,
we're stuck to what we have in capital and what we have in operating. We can't move between the two without Board of Finance approval.
yeah, if you remember last year, we had two projects, Torrington and Vogel Wetmore for the alarm system. And we had money left in our reserve, the capital reserve. And we use that money, so I'll see if we have any other of that.
John, hold on, let's just, if we can just raise our hand, just because keep listening people.
This meeting is already making glaciers look fast, and this isn't on the agenda, and it's
Right.
really a facilities and technology issue, which would be the appropriate place for an extended discussion. about this. This is- That's what I was gonna say. Start it there, and then we'll move it out.
Yeah, just one more. I bring it up because we talked about it publicly more than once or twice. And we always talk about how we shouldn't be talking about those kinds of issues. I just don't want it to come back and hurt us 2 months from now. That's all. So if we can expedite something like that in our next meeting, then I think we should talk about it.
Yeah, it's gotta go through there anyway.
All right. Survey results, 712, you already
I
went
already
over
spoke
those.
over that. Yep. Address it.
Education specifications for the TMS window replacement project,
You have it in
the big package.
the package.
Yeah, the big one.
It's our, as we met with the facility, we want to do again, we're back to the windows. I think we have a good plan. So what we need is your approval of the specs. Once those approved, I will then go to the city council with the 3 resolutions that are needed to start the project and get everything going. And then we have to fill out all the state forms and so forth. So the first thing is the specs.
No, there you go.
Does anyone have any questions on ed specs for Windows? No? All right, board goal updates, John?
The board is far overdue in setting its goals for this year, understandably so. That will be taken up, that issue will be taken up in the school improvement committee meeting next week. The agenda for that will be coming out soon. I have it all set to go. So if you have any board goals, please send them to me, send them to the school improvement committee. And come to that meeting. We will discuss board goals this school year.
Thank you. School calendar.
Okay, snow days, they're back. The state has said that we can use distance learning for snow days. However, in our current calendar, we do have the 5 snow days already allocated. So what we may want to do is keep the calendar the way it is and just do the 5 days as, it's just the same calendar. I just wanted to give it to you as reference so that, yeah, and it actually has the weeks on it in terms of the color coding and everything else.
You
still
don't
need
anymore,
one?
no, Gary needs one.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't
so
have
you
it.
have the 5 extra days already in there. That would mean the last day of school would be the 21st. If we had to go with the 5 days, anything after the 5 days, we would have to say, okay, that's what I'm proposing is after the 5 days, then we would go distance. The only time we couldn't do that is if we have a power outage in any area in Torrington, any of our district area, because it's just equity issue, we just couldn't do it. And then we'd have to make up that extra day. Yeah.
I'll say what I said last time. I'm
Gary
sorry.
and then Sue.
I think the kids have suffered enough to take away their snow day. And the parents have suffered enough, a lot of them. Take away a snow day, which we've all been able to take advantage of for the last 100 years in this country, is just, I think it's crazy. And distance learning doesn't necessarily do a lot of good for them anyway, and I suspect a lot of them may check out anyway if it's snowing outside. So what will they really get out of it? Plus forcing teachers to come into the classroom. Anyway.
Sue.
So my question is, so we have 5 snow days, but you would be using distance learning on those days? So they're,
So let me just clarify, because it's a good question. So at our last meeting, I don't know, 2 months ago, when the calendar was approved by the board, they said, okay, so if we don't have any snow days, we would get out on the 14th of June.
okay,
But if we do have 5 snow days, similar to what we've done in previous years, pre-COVID, we would end on the 21st.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm just saying, if we take those 5 snow days and we use this as is right now, and our last day is the 21st, say we have an ice storm or a power outage or something where half our, kids won't even be able to log on.
Yeah.
We're still going to have to add another day, and that couldn't be a distance learning day because
So
it's
it's
not possible.
are we using distance learning and snow days as the same thing? Or a snow day would be, there's no power either all through town or part of town, so therefore it's an official snow day. We
Okay.
stay till the 15th. Or is it, there's a snow day,
Yep.
but everyone has power, so everyone's gonna distance learn today.
So June 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, if we had 5 snow days, we'd have to make those up. So if we have a snowstorm on December 15th,
Yeah,
then we'd have to go to June 15th.
but when you say snow day, right.
Anything over 5.
No,
So
I
you
get that part.
5
My
snow
question
days.
is a snow day a snow day? There's no
Yes,
school, no
correct.
distance learning,
Yes.
nothing.
The
Okay,
first, only
So
first
that's why
5.
we'd have to
the
add.
first 5.
Right.
Right.
So, but I
Okay.
think your
Okay.
question's a good one, because if we were moving past that 21st and we say, okay, we're gonna do distance learning now because everybody has power, but we have the opportunity to do a distance day and it's getting really late in June. We could do kind of that 4.5 hour day.
Yep.
And do it on a distance learning, and then kids could still have their snow day in the afternoon, if you will. I just want to remind people, we're in New England, so you have to remember, we have ice storms, we have slush storms. Sometimes I'm calling a snow day, and then I'm not sure what happens during that time. So it may not be this beautiful, let's go build a snowman kind of snow. So I can't pick the snow days for when it's pretty. So if on the 6th day, let me just finish, the snow day is beautiful, but the other 5 were ice storms and it was really ugly, but they got the day off until June to make it up. I have no control over that. If we are saying that we're going to make up the 6th day as a distance day, or maybe we just call them all snow days and then we make them all up in June, up till July 1st.
Gary and Nikki.
I think the issue is more, and you can do your research on what they learn in distance versus what they learn in the classroom. And especially this year, after so much distance learning, every extra day in the classroom, or every day out of the classroom, they say is losing at least, over a day of real learning. And for the sake of not extending the school year, which we've done for a century, they're not learning at home until somebody can. I think as a board, I would say if our obligation is to teach the children the best we can, then for the sake of just not extending the school year, and it doesn't really go that late. Maybe at a certain point we make that determination, but they don't learn at home. So I think that I would have to argue that they're really not being educated on distance learning, because we all know that the amount of education that they get at distance learning doesn't compare to what they get in the classroom. So they need to get back in the classroom, is all I'm saying. They need to learn. And I don't think we can kick that can down the road much longer for the sake of, getting people out a little bit earlier. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I think we all agree, I think, that they don't learn. Distance learning doesn't really work. So we're saying,
Something that does.
well, I mean, the data shows.
Sorry, is that the wrong thing to say?
Well, it's not a wrong thing.
Okay.
Well, I'll bring the data
Your
next time.
comment, go.
Okay, I want to redirect this really fast. While I'm generally kind of inclined to agree with Gary's earlier point that I think it's sometimes best to just give the kids a snow day. I think we live in a society that demands far too much from people, as you well know, considering I'm guessing you're in at least your 14th hour of the workday.
Yeah.
So, but my question is, if we do decide to have distance learning, what does it look like in terms of, for you, determining like what the power outages look like? Because we all know the online lookup tool for Eversource is garbage. And so like, do you like have a point of contact there that you reach out to? How does it look in that scenario?
Sure. So what I do, John works with me at 3:30 in the morning. We consult with the Department of Public Works, and they'll give us a rundown on power outages, road conditions on the hills, downtown, a variety of different things. And so then that's what we're making our decisions based on, talking to the meteorologist in the morning as well, just all those factors. Right. And so it's a lot more than, oh, I just think I'm going to call a snow day.
No, I just
So I'm
meant for the
glad you
power
bring that up.
situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's factored in as well. So it really does, we get all of that information early on, and then they'll tell us if we're also at risk because of this impending
So
storm.
you get, I guess my core question is, you get better information about the state of the power grid than I would by going online.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we get the inside scoop.
Okay, Nikki, then John.
Yeah, my only comment was I think the first 2 snow days are fun and exciting for everyone involved. And after that, I think it loses its excitement. So like my vote would be to build in, 2 snow days and then distance learn anything over that.
John and then Jess.
Snow days are disruptive to everybody. We're having enough trouble now with teachers who have also childcare responsibilities because their own kids are home some days.
That's what happens on a snow day too. Your kids stay home. And if you're trying to teach from home, that might be harder to do remote. Now, when it's today, like today, by today, I mean recently, when it's built into your schedule, that's one thing.
Right.
But if it isn't built into your schedule, that's a good reason to have just a snow day. That plus the fact that sometimes power is out for a lot of people, or even just a considerable people in the town. It's, or grandma can't come and watch kids because it's too icy for her to ride. So, and so on. So I like snow days too, but there are some practical reasons.
Jeff,
I would support taking it on a case-by-case basis. I mean, there are a lot of other issues, like John said, teachers that have childcare issues, or maybe teachers that live in other towns and they don't have power and we do have power. You know, there's a lot of different things. I think we could keep it as an option to do a distance day, depending on what the circumstances are. You know, I see it both ways, but
Gary,
The whole snow thing was just, that was a discussion we talked about last time. Real issue is what our kids learn. And we always seem to overlook that when we talk about things as silly as extending the school year by not extending it because we can do in online learning when we know 70% of the parents want their kids in school. So some kids learn at home. It is the smallest of the minorities so far to date that data shows learn at home. So as a administration, I would think that we would want, and as a board, my feeling is we want the kids to learn the best they can. And if the majority of the parents want their kids in school, I suspect if you sent this survey out again, you'd find most of the parents, if not almost all, don't want their kids at home on a snow day because they know they're not going to learn anything. And yes, maybe it's gonna be ice, but that's just one more day the kids can play video games. We know the screens are blacked out, but they may not be. They're blurred. But what's the point? I don't understand what the point of doing it is, other than making it easier for who? Is the question.
Jeff,
I just had another thought unrelated to that. What would happen with lunches? Because right now, if we have a distance day, we have a plan to get those kids their lunches. And what would happen now if we just have a spontaneous, we wake up, oh, it's a distance day, and nobody has their lunches? Are we required to provide lunches on every day that counts as a school day?
We would have to look at the law in terms of that. On snow days, obviously, we do not provide meals. And so then that, is not obligatory.
Right, but if it's a distance day and we're not counting as a snow day, we're expecting them to school from home. That would be where I wonder if we were.
Right, I'd have to. I'd
That
have
might
to
be the
check
answer
with
to the
Ed
whole
Advance.
dilemma.
so can
not
we just
criticizing
leave
you.
it that for right now till we do a little more? We run
Just in case
as
we have a blizzard
normal.
on Friday.
If there's a blizzard Friday.
That's what I'm
So
worried
for
about.
example, like so Friday, if it snows, if 3, 4, or 5 inches, whatever, just for example, you would call a snow day. It's official, it's snow day, school's closed.
Correct.
Okay, that's how it's set up right now.
Yes.
Okay.
We can vote on this tonight still, regardless of your after 5 snow day policy, right? If we can pass this tonight.
Well, this is the current
This is
calendar.
already-
Yep, so we've already voted on
Part
this.
of the change or something, right?
No, I just wanted you to use it as a reference.
Okay.
And I was just worried because I really didn't think I'd have to bring this up before the next board meeting. But then when they said there was gonna be snow on Friday, I'm like, I better put it on the agenda.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, trying to figure out what had changed and why it was in front of us.
Yeah, no, just you had it as a reference. That's
All right,
all.
so maybe we can see if we can get the answers and send it to school improvement next week so that it can come back to the board for making a change. We don't often get to send things to you.
No. Thank you.
Is everybody okay
Yeah.
with that? Getting the information on the lunches, to school improvement,
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Sure.
and then bringing it back to us?
Ellen, you're getting out of a lot.
I know, I was gonna say, SIG is becoming the new
I
policy.
know, that was bad.
All right, committee assignments. As everyone knows, Molly Skino resigned and Sue Prentice is taking her place, so we had to move around the committees a little bit to fill where Molly was vacating. So not much changed, really just filling in the spots, so. And then because some people were started in negotiations, we had to keep that.
Is it one page?
Yes. it's
Oh,
one
okay,
page.
I have a bunch then.
There we go. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I thought you, so very sorry about that.
Does she
You
want
what?
you?
Yeah.
You're
I
alternate.
have no real community assignments.
Yeah. Okay, 1, 2, 3. So if anyone has any questions, reach out and we can talk about it offline. And then we'll come back if we need to.
It's just information, right?
It's just informational, right?
Is this effective now?
Yeah,
Okay.
Effective next Wednesday.
next Wednesday.
Thank you.
All right. November 3rd, Election Day, high school referendum, 6 days away. But I wanted to make a statement about the referendum because the board has been working on this at this point for almost 3 years. And a lot of work has been put into this project. And we're nearing the end of the project. So on November 3rd, the voters of Torrington will vote whether to approve a new high school, middle school, central office facility. As chair of the board, I have been involved extensively in the process since its inception. What started out as a need to address the failing mechanicals in the high school has turned into something better for the future of Torrington and cheaper for our taxpayers. I feel strongly that the board, faculty members, community members, students, and local business owners that have worked on this project throughout the last several years have brought to referendum the most educationally and fiscally sound plan for our community. They have already sharpened the pencils and are bringing what's most beneficial for the future of Torrington. While the referendum question is whether or not to approve a $159 million project after state grants, the actual taxpayer cost is $74 million. In the total project cost, there is $29,329,152 in various contingency line items as required by the state. In addition, there is $1.2 million in permit fees to the city of Torrington alone. As a board, we felt very strongly that this was a community decision to be made. I hope all of the members of the community will exercise their right on Tuesday, November 3rd, to participate in this process. We have laid out all of the data to provide the information on why something needs to be done, provided multiple scenarios and cost analysis, and provided a plan to present to our community. We have worked with 2 very reputable construction and architectural firms that have extensive experience and expertise in these projects. The Torrington High School building was constructed beginning in 1961, and not much has changed since then. The mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection are all at the end of their useful life. The windows, wall panels do not have insulation and are far past their shelf life. There are leaks throughout the building, falling ceiling panels, and structural issues going on. The temperature ranges from the low 50s in the winter to the low 90s in the spring, and many windows cannot open, limiting the flow of air throughout the building. The gym is in such poor condition, the state has discussed the possibility of condemning it. I know there's not a person in Torrington that wants that for our community or our schools. Without these repairs, the school will have problems with our next NEASC visit. These are not maintenance issues. These are issues of a building that has served our town very well for almost 60 years, but it's time to move forward. Our facility director and custodial staff have done an amazing job of trying to keep in front of this and repairing things as they break and trying to develop plans for repair and replacement that will be palatable to the Torrington community. However, the needs are too great. They can continue to try to patch the 3 feet of plumbing in the ceiling responsible for the latest leak because the pipe has disintegrated in the ceiling, causing holes to form. They can then fix the ceiling tiles and wall and floor damage from that leak. However, it doesn't and is never going to fix the real problem that when done with the repairs, they still need to replace another 283,000 feet of pipe. We can't continue to avoid the problem. The state will not reimburse the cost of repairs, so the cost of these mandatory fixes without a single classroom improvement is $78 million on the low end. If these projects get spread out over time or are split in pieces to work around students, that cost greatly increases. If the town decides this is the best route for Torrington, then all repairs will be done inside the existing building, disrupting learning for several grades of children for several years to come. A new school will bring enhancements to the direct career pathways already being implemented at Torrington High School. Existing teachers will have the space and equipment to fully execute programs with the following focuses: business and entrepreneur, healthcare, public safety, criminal justice, health and wellness, education, STEM high-tech manufacturing, and applied arts. Our students deserve this, our staff deserves this, but quite honestly, Torrington deserves this. We can build a safe, state-of-the-art building for all of Torrington's 7th through 12th graders at a lower per pupil cost of all recent statewide school building projects. In addition, move our central office staff to the same site. As a continuation of this project, our existing middle school will be used for all 4th through 6th graders, and this has educational and financial benefits of its own. Advanced middle school students will only need to walk through a corridor to take high school courses. Economically speaking, having the 7th and 8th graders together means many of them will then choose to stay and finish their career at Torrington High School. We currently lose 30% of our city's 8th graders to area schools, which costs our district over $2 million a year in outplacement tuition costs. If even a third of those students remained in district, we could save over $700,000 a year. Our district's director of facilities, together with the Board of Education's facility committee, is actively creating a long-term maintenance plan for all the city's school buildings. Combining our schools in our administration building will allow us to save over $500,000 every year in energy and maintenance expenses. I am asking our community to consider all of the information when determining if a new school is right for Torrington. All of the information presented tonight is factual. I encourage everyone to exercise their right to vote on Tuesday and to believe in Torrington and what we could possibly do. If anyone else wants to make any comments, John?
This is the first social media referendum for a major project we've gone through. And there are 2 groups out there on Facebook that I wish would talk to each other. One says, we don't need a new building because buildings don't educate kids, teachers do. There's another thread out there that says the school board has continually refused to fund, to repair and maintain the school building. Now, if you look at what that means, we get a limited budget, always cut down by the people who show up at hearings saying we're spending too much, Torrington can't afford it. It's the worst year since the dark ages. We have no money, we never will, it's all over. And so the powers that be frequently cut by a lot, frequently by a lot, always by at least a little, cut back what we have. So we have our choice. Do we maintain the building? Well, no, buildings don't teach kids. People teach kids. So when we are faced with that choice, we fund the kids. We fund the program. We fund education. And if they had given us every dollar we asked for, or even close to that, we could have maintained that school. It would still be a cheap. That building was put up in '63 on the cheap, but it would still be in better shape than it is now. But they haven't done that. Right. Schools don't teach kids. Teachers teach kids. We've made that choice, and now we're in this situation. No scare tactics here. We really are going to have to do everything you said we're going.
Gary?
I agree with John. I think above and beyond that, though, in Torrington, we've talked about this for decades. We've done it this way. And if we did it, we wouldn't, East School wouldn't be sitting there almost empty with $70 million worth of work needed if we had maintained the school. I don't know what we've done with declining enrollment. Who knows what we do with it? But if anything, we could sell it for far more than what we're going to sell it for, and utilize, the city could utilize that money toward something different. But we don't maintain our schools, and like you said, there's two sides. I think the only problem that on Facebook we have is, and there's not a lot of people that we see, but the same thing we come up with over and over again is we can do it cheaper. And the mayor was at one of our meetings and she did agree that this has been a 5-year discussion and that we do need to do this. And Ann Ruette did support it at that meeting publicly. It needs to be understood that there aren't any choices and nobody's come up with how we can keep the school and fix it. It's not fixable. The exterior that will, and I don't want to be responsible, I don't think the board should be responsible for continuing to ignore the curtain wall, which exists. They built it cheap. If it was a block masonry building on the exterior curtain wall, it'd be, like John said, we could probably, if properly maintained, use the school frame as we have, not spend any money on the exterior curtain wall other than replacing windows, and we'd save millions of dollars. But that's not the case. From the roof on down to their foundation, that curtain wall has to come out. It needs to be bagged. It needs to be negative.
Hazmat team.
Hazmat team. It will be a hazmat team. It will be negative air pressure. The kids can't be in the school. And that's just the curtain wall. The sidewalks, the roof needs to be replaced. It leaks everywhere.
There is a guy that said he could do the roof for
like $30,000.
something like that, yeah.
But that's the people
By using the check.
Yeah.
But they're hardworking Torrington people, and they have their opinion. But it's not like it's not 10 years ago when maybe we could save some things. That curtain wall can never be saved. It can't be. The panels are broken. They're already airborne. It has to be replaced. And out of all the alternatives, the cheapest was to build a school that could allow us millions of dollars in savings over the years. And that included keeping children there, no different than the investment we made in special education. We need to bring the kids back, give them someplace they want to be at, because education is a business these days, unfortunately. And it would allow us to save money on education, allow us our pathways so the kids that don't go to college, and even those that do, have a, for instance, the tech wing, or whatever you want to call it. The pathways will allow kids to prepare themselves for a future. By just fixing what's broken gives us nothing other than fixing what's broken. I don't think we meet the S requirements. I don't think we meet the state's requirements for the 21st century. And nobody yet, including Jerry and anybody else, has come up with an alternative other than we can do it cheaper. And that's wrong. Because unless they can show us how we can save that curtain wall for less than $30 million, they shouldn't be continually throwing barbs out at the PAC. And I'm not testifying for the PAC, but nobody's given us another solution. So the board has done a great job. They've done their homework, and it wasn't me I'm talking about. I'm talking about like Armin. He spent 2 years straight working on that part of the project, and everybody else that spent time, 30
months.
Okay. There is not we thought renovating that school might be the cheapest alternative. Not repairing, but renovating. But partly because of that curtain wall, it's not the cheapest way. So anyway, you're right, Fiona, John, you're right. I mean, there's two sides in Torrington. Both sides are hardworking, both sides are taxpayers, but there is no other alternative. And unless somebody can give us one, which they haven't in the last 2-3 months, hopefully the taxpayers can vote in favor. Everybody deserves a vote, and hopefully they see that we've addressed every possible path here. And sadly, this is the best we can do. So,
Anyone else from the board? Anything to say? Nope. All right. Okay, committee reports, budget committee. Oh, I'm sorry, DC trip.
Jason's going on.
Well, what I was gonna suggest is that this get moved to a subcommittee to kind of look at all the details.
He said not it. I would volunteer to be part of that if it would be helpful. So why are you laughing, Armin?
So the moral of this is, so the 8th grade students, due to the pandemic, weren't
Couldn't
able
go to Washington,
So-
right.
So we're trying to look at a way that we could possibly send the 8th graders that didn't get to go last year, this year, even though they're 9th graders.
Mhm.
And we don't even know how many of those students would really
Right.
still want to go.
Would the 8th graders still go?
I'm just putting out there, we don't.
You don't even know if the 8th
step
graders
will
are going yet,
happen this
right.
year.
But I think it's
I just
something
wanna
that
say that.
should be,
Right.
Correct.
Just to this.
but in the event that they can go. And
Right.
you know what, and
Let's
it may be
start.
an issue next year where we need to make a decision, where's the cutoff?
Right.
Okay, like,
Right, we
do
don't,
the 10th graders, the 8th, 9th, and 10th get to go? Will 8th and 9th get to go? Like, if we address it now, then maybe we don't have to talk about it
Right.
every year for the next 2 or 3 years. Which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so we could, if the board is, majority is interested in learning more about this, we could have Mr. Lafreniere get all the information. So we had an idea of how many students are interested in going, what would it look like? Would they go together?
Right.
Supervision, student to staff numbers, so that we could look at it and see if it's even feasible.
I'm sure Jason has a plan.
Yeah. Pardon?
Policy committee always talked about field trips and field trips.
Yeah.
So that's us.
People and stuff, right?
We could,
Yeah. I mean, I really,
policy, just because you guys are meeting to get a better idea. It's not really a policy, but it is, field trips are a policy, so.
and I would be surprised if Jason didn't already have a plan laid
Yeah,
out,
and the
right? For
numbers and whatever,
everything
sure.
that we would need. All the legwork is probably done. It's just a matter of.
I just think a subcommittee can look at it more detailed
good,
than
yeah.
the full board can look at
Mhm.
it. So if policy is willing to take it, not that it's going to impact a policy, but it's.
I
relative,
volunteered us, I think, Ellen.
Then
You don't
you,
have to volunteer to get everything.
Anyway,
policy.
okay.
You're
and then you guys,
You're in
Yeah,
charge.
you'll see how it goes.
Okay.
then you guys can decide if it needs a special meeting to approve, or we can look at it in November at the full board. Because November, we have a condensed month, week back to back because of the holidays. So our meeting is the
On the
third week,
18th,
not the
yeah.
fourth week. So if we can wait till the 18th but if you guys could bet it in between, if you don't mind. So I'll email Jason. And if he's not available, then at least can get you guys all the information to bring it back to the full board for a vote.
Sure.
Okay. All right, any other questions on Washington DC? Budget? Heard a lot from you tonight.
Yeah, budget's going on. Yeah, we are in the black, as we said, which is good, but, we'll have to see month by month. So, even though with the COVID stuff, I thought really we would have a struggle. The beginning of this year, I really did. I thought we'd be underwater big time because of COVID expenses, but we're knock on wood, we're doing okay. So we're actually in the black, so that's a good thing. So it's positive right now.
School improvement.
School improvement. At our last meeting a few weeks ago, we had reports on the Pathways program, very good report on the Pathways program. Actually explained it very well and made it that it really is the way to go into the future, especially with the new facility. We talked about the way state testing requirements and teacher evaluation are a little bit topsy-turvy in the current environment. That was an understatement.
Close, you, very politically correct.
In the current situation. And we also decided we do need more to take a look at school goals for this year. Now, this meeting next week will include the snow day discussion, as we've been tasked with, and teacher evaluation. We're going to have more report on that. You thought maybe there'd be more about and course proposals, if there are any.
Yeah, we'll have a few.
Okay, so that should be enough to keep us there. We had a topic for future meetings going back to the spring on the TAG program. I don't think we need a very long presentation, but I would be interested in hearing if anything is happening in the
Laura
current
is
situation for TAG.
working on that, so I will see if she will be ready at the November meeting. If not, would definitely be ready for the December.
Oh, very good.
Is that still active?
And yeah, in December, and in December also,
Oh,
just to look way ahead, I think it would be time to look at the efficacy of distance learning, effectiveness and so on. Because Gary brings up a good point. We see everything about distance learning. We have people say it's wonderful, it works for my students, and we hear people saying, they give up, they don't even show up. So that'll be probably for December. But anyway, that's School Improvement Committee, and we are, as always, the most entertaining and productive of all the board committees, and look forward to having everybody there.
Facilities and technology.
Okay, so the last time I was here, I'll be honest, my back was hurting and I took a muscle relaxer. So
So you don't remember being here?
I remember being here, but I remember, I think Armor and everything helped me. I know we talked. I don't remember.
John said you ran a very good.
That's why I tried to get
I think Nikki talked about the long-term capital plan and the need for one.
Big projects, the Alliance grant projects,
And the Alaska projects.
Windows, the windows, and the windows.
And the order of repairs that would need to happen at the high school.
Yes.
Right. If there
I don't remember. But we promise you next time.
Michael Jackson stock.
I don't even drink. So
I think mostly everybody was at that committee meeting. Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
no, I will keep track.
Building committee, Mr. Aram.
Yeah, well, we have all the things we hope it passes, and if it does, we start that Thursday, getting specs out for the architect and interviewing.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be
Fingers crossed.
it's gonna be a fast-moving committee. Right, Gary? You can-
Absolutely. We got Mario running with
No
us.
muscle relaxers.
No,
Yeah, not for
I've
those
not
meetings.
taken them. My wife will tell you,
Even out loud.
they were doing damage. Just calling people the wrong
As I
name.
said,
Oh, no.
as I said at the meeting, go far, people on Matzo.
Yeah.
Um, He is unbelievable. He's a great help to us.
Come on, Mario.
Mario.
He's killing it.
He is. I feel
Kill
so
himself,
bad for
too.
him though. Oh my gosh.
And the committee is great.
Yes.
No doubt about it.
Entertain a motion to approve the monthly financials.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion to accept and approve the educational specifications dated October 19, 2020 for the Torrington Middle School window replacement project.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? John, here.
Thank you.
All right, we're removing the school calendar. Entertain a motion to approve the revised Alliance construction grant proposal.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yep.
Entertain a motion to approve the Board of Ed regular meeting minutes from August 21st, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I vote on that?
Yeah, no, you can abstain.
Okay.
Because you
I'll
weren't here.
abstain.
So, yeah. Okay, entertain a motion to approve the Board of Ed special meeting minutes of October 5th and October 21st.
So moved.
Second, all those in favor? Abstention? All right, entertain a motion to approve the committee meeting minutes.
So moved.
All together?
Mhm.
Okay.
I'll second.
Who moved?
Carrie.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain. Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Where is that? Sorry.
It's on the last page.
End of the packet.
Second.
Second, any discussion?
Jonathan.
Yeah.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
We're not going to be voting on the Washington tea trip tonight. All right, comments to the good of the order. Ellen?
Oh.
Great,
Okay, really?
a lot of information, a lot of work done, kudos to everyone.
Kathy?
Thanks, and vote for the school.
Yes. No. Gary?
The same what I said last time, I think the administration's done a great job, the whole team is, and given the environment we're in, I think that we're in a better position than I thought we would be. Everybody vote.
John?
Looking forward to next Wednesday, getting through everything in between.
Yes.
I just want to plug really quick that on Sunday, November 1st at 2 o'clock, some great
Big
community
rally.
leaders will be rallying at Poe Park in support of the new school. There'll be some speakers, some other stuff. So, everyone will be spread out and wearing their masks, but be a great way to show sort of a final push of support. So I want everyone else to be there with me.
How was it again?
2 o'clock.
Armand?
I just want to say the school project is the most educationally sound and the most fiscally responsible project that that we could come up with. There's no other way to do it cheaper, and there's no other way to do it better.
Nikki?
I'm all set.
Yes.
Just one thing, there was an article in the paper this morning about Region 12 and some concerns that they're having with their remote learning. And one thing that they said in there, and I didn't mention this before when Ally talked about the blurred with the Google, but it pertains to that. The article says a contract between the district and parents of distance learners states that screens need to be on for them to be counted as part of attendance. If parents want screens to be off, they need to send a letter to school principals with a reason for the exemption. So I think it would be cool if we could consider something like that. So I just wanted to toss that out there.
Goes to you, John.
December meeting.
Items for upcoming agenda, capital plan, monthly financials. Washington DC. Washington DC, yeah.
What Jess just said?
Oh, that'll go to.
Will it?
All right, anything?
Where are we
that's a
talking
good
about
idea.
the security of the, what do we say about security?
It's gonna go to facilities first. Anything else specific? We're gonna, start budget timeline. I think we'll start to work on at some point.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's the meeting already.
Future meetings outlined below. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.